I got you. So, bottom line is, we got the diagnosis this time, and when you first diagnosed with a hemolytic anemia in January,
Yeah.
you actually had a lymphoma.
Mm-hmm.
That was the reason why you had hemolytic anemia. And it is very, very common when people have hemolytic anemia, you always do bone marrow biopsy to rule out lymphoma. That is the common practice.
Yeah.
So anyway, now we have a diagnosis. You got a bone marrow involvement of a special type of lymphoma. We call it mantle cell lymphoma. You had a 50% involvement of bone marrow. That means 50% of your bone marrow is loaded with the cancer cells. Only 50% is a normal cell. Got it?
Now I understand.
And your lymph node biopsy also shows lymphoma. He's reading out completely different type lymphoma called follicular lymphoma. So I had to call this doctor because the person who did a bone marrow biopsy report, that's from California, the one that was done lymph node biopsy is at Baptist. The guy who read it is not working today, so I had to call another guy and say, hey man, look back and see. Because one specimen of bone marrow shows mantle cell lymphoma, and your lymph node biopsy shows different type. I want to make sure that yours is probably mantle cell. We haven't done the specific testing, because mantle cell has a specific cyclin D1 positive and translocation 1114 positive. So he looked back and said, yeah, I think so. My partner just read this as a follicular lymphoma, but I'm going to run some special testing, and he's going to give it an addendum so that we have a same lymphoma, one in the bone marrow and one in the lymph node. Those are the lymphoma. Do you know what lymphoma is?
Not really.
So basically, lymphoma is a disease of your lymphocytes, which is B cells. We fight and protect our country by Army, Air Force, and Navy. Same principle. The white blood cell in your bone marrow are your soldiers.
Right.
The lymph nodes are their police stations. So if you got a sore throat, they get bigger. Why? Because all the lymphocyte comes right there, and the lymph node is trying to fight that bug so the bug don't enter you and give you septic shock. You got a cut, your lymph node gets bigger. So those lymph nodes are infiltrated by police, which is a lymphocyte. Well, your cop has turned against you. You are attacked by your own soldiers. They're not working right. They are seeing you. They're infiltrating your lymph nodes by their abnormal cells. They're turned crazy. And there are 50% of your bone marrow is loaded with the abnormal cells. It's cancer. It's a bad cells that we have to kill. Well, that same B cell is what's making the antibody. And that antibody is what's killing your red blood cell.
I understand that.
So you don't treat the hemolytic anemia, you treat the main disease. You get rid of the lymphoma, and your hemolytic anemia goes away. You got it?
I understand that.
Your B cell is what's making the antibody. That's what the Kamoss test is positive. Your Kamoss test is positive because your B cell is going crazy. Look at the CT scan of the chest. Some of those lymph nodes shouldn't be more than 1 centimeter. You got 2.5 centimeter and 2 centimeter. So your lymph node is big, and you got abdominal mass. That is lymphoma. So we're going to have to treat. Let me the point placement.
They haven't let us know yet.
They have
She's checking.
not. I'll have Crystal come talk to you.
Hey, what's the deal on the mass? Is that what's?
That's lymphoma. So my goal is to kill lymphoma with the chemo in Clinton, one treatment every 3 weeks. And we follow with a repeat scan in 3 cycles, 6 cycles. And we want to get complete remission. Okay. I'm going to let you know mantle cell are not the good one to have. Mantle cell is aggressive one. There are 30 lymphomas out there. I'm not going to lie to you. Absolute fact. Mantle cell lymphoma have two types. One is aggressive. Most of them are aggressive. And number two, dormant. Very rarely you might find dormant. I got one girl, lady actually, she's one of the ex-CEO of the hospital's wife that I followed for 20 years. I have used chemo treatment back in 2003. She still has that mantle cell lymphoma, and we have not used the treatment. But in your case, this looks aggressive because you got a huge mass. So our goal is to kill it. Got it?
Yeah.
This is an aggressive lymphoma. If you don't do anything...
Or is it spreading then?
Well, let me put it in a nice way. This was 1950s, and I did not have anything else to offer to you. This, what you are harboring, is not going to let you live more than a few months. That is an absolute truth. This is not bronchitis. You got it? This is a serious thing. If you were in 1950s, and you had this lymphoma, and I had no chemotherapy, if you pick 100 people like you, they won't be alive 6 months.
How long do you think something like this would have been going on?
I have no idea. But lymphoma, this is aggressive lymphoma. Prognosis is poor. But in 2019, I got stuff. After this one, if I still have poor results, I got a tablet. $15,000 a month supply. I got tablets I can treat you with. I got stuff. This is second line. I can't use that drug as a first line. You see what I'm saying? So if I treat you and if I drop your mantle cell lymphoma in a complete remission, 6 cycles later, bingo, we all dance. And your hemolytic anemia is cured. But for some unknown reason, I got 20% or 50% response rate. Well, I got second line tablets that I can do, which is not a chemo. So I got stuff in 2019. We'll try our best not to let you die from this disease, because this is much better days than what we had back in those days. 2019, we have a drug called ibrutinib. That's a tablet. That's not even a chemo. That will still control it, but I can't not use as a first line. You have to use as a second line. But it was not available 4 or 5 years ago. So we got some good stuff out there.